Okay, back where we left off here. So, we were discussing how we're going to have to remove some of this stuff here off of the heater box here. So, let's see what we got here. This stuff just seems to have these little plastic let's see here. These little plastic things that just pop out of there. That's, you know, you can expect a lot of those to probably break on some vehicles. They do have a couple of little holes here. As a matter of fact, I think one of these, no, it's just an alignment pin. You know, you can always just zip tie this stuff. Just make sure you zip tie it. You could kind of just zip tie it to this little bracket here or into these holes here if you get something that breaks off here, because that's just going to happen. This vehicle's in reasonably decent shape. It hasn't sat in the sun a ton, but I'm sure there's a more proper way to do that, but okay, there's this plug right here, and it's got one of these little red clip things on here. I'm pretty sure you probably have to pull that out or push it in before that plug comes out of there. You really don't want to break it. Which I probably am going to at the rate I'm going here. I think you can just take and probably just unbolt that entire thing right there. See how well we can see all that there. Yeah, this thing here, I'm going to go on the other side and grab my wrench there. Okay, found the wrench. Now can I find the socket? Oh, well, this is what happens. I'm not even sure if that's 1/4 inch. It's not. This other one seems to be fitting it here. I can't even see what it is because it's got paint on it. It's a 5/16, I think. I'll just take this whole thing here. Take this whole thing off of here, and we'll see what that gets us. I'm really wanting to get this thing done. Get this, at least get this part here. I'm not so much worried about all the stuff under the hood, but just to get the damn interior apart and back together. Okay, this is your blower motor. I think this is the thermostat or the resistor, or I'm not sure which part this is. I know there's a part in here that goes out. I don't know if that's it or not. But see, these things have those little red tabs on the bottom here, and you kind of gotta pull that out or push it or do something. And let's see, you push. I guess you can just push in on that. I don't know. But it was easier just to take that whole thing out of there. And then, there's a plug over here that you gotta undo. This thing's stuck in a wiring loom. I'm not quite sure how it comes off of there. I'm sure it's not rocket science, but there's this little plug right here. Hopefully you can see that. And it plugs up into this thing here. So, and then we got another one of those wiring harness things here. And of course it's plastic. They can't just put a wire on there so you can bend it down and put the wire in. They gotta, you know. Okay, so if you sense me having more of an attitude today, I'm just kind of tired and I've just got so much other stuff going on. It's really hard to switch gears back and forth, and I'm just really wanting to get this done because it's just getting down to the real tedious, nitpicky stuff right now. And while I'm talking about it here, don't forget to pull off this hose here. For this duct here that's sitting on top of the box here. And you're going to have to pull, I don't know, this comes off of here. You know, like I said, it's not a rocket science project, but you got to take your time. You know, you really do. If you want to try and get everything back the way it's supposed to, not screw, break all these clips and all that stuff. So, with those undone, I don't know if I have to take off the fuse box or not. It might be easier to pull this hose out from behind there so that I can kind of get this thing out of the way, because this whole thing's going to kind of need to pull back. So yeah, I probably should pull the fuse box out of the way there. I'm still... Okay, never mind. Trying to figure out where my 1/4-inch socket is. Where's the 1/4-inch socket? Where could it possibly be? Where could it possibly be? On the 1/4-inch ratchet, so that's that. Then I got these sticker things in my shoes because I went out and I was cutting some wood and doing some weed eating and stuff the other day, and shit. Then I got all these sticky sticker things in my shoes, and it's just like, all right. Again, another good reason to have the battery removed or disconnected when you're doing all this stuff, because you're really getting into screwing around with the wiring here. So, jeez, it's just, everything's just taking some extra time, you know what I mean? And that's what happens when you're not really in the mood to be doing it. Those are galvanized, so you'll remember what those look like. And if you don't, they're galvanized. Remember what they look like. All right. So we're going to pull this forward. We're going to pull this doing with this wiring loom here. Jesus. I don't know if I'm supposed to take this one hose off here. What a I guess maybe I don't have to screw with it at all. I don't know. And that's to the courtesy light switch there. Just putting this wire up out of the way. I took the courtesy light thing off of it, and that's just the wire hanging there. Alright, at some point I'm just going to have to unbolt stuff from underneath the hood, the rest of it from underneath the hood there, and then just kind of see. And that's just kind of the way you got to go with this stuff. You kind of got to, you know, get everything that looks like you're good. You know, watch all the videos you can, unbolt everything that looks like it needs to be unbolted and unplugged and undone, and then, you know, just kind of start wiggling it. You will probably inevitably find something that, if it's not unbolted, unscrewed, or unhooked, it's in the way. So that's just, again, kind of the nature of the beast with projects like this. So I'm going to get it together and go find that 1/4" socket. Just kidding. I'm going to organize some of my stuff here and get back under the hood and go after it under there. We basically got 5 nuts, I believe, and those 2 heater hoses to pull off, because we already took the clamps off. So I will return. Okay, so back to under the hood here, and from what I heard or remember, there's 5 nuts that need to be removed from studs. I'm going to go back and double check that, but from what I can tell, that would be 1 right here underneath this wiring harness here. Kind of move it down here, you can see there's 1 right there. Then there's 2 more right here where this bracket is, and this bracket is what the that clamp that canister bolted onto, that canister that was over here. So that's 1 over here, 1 there, and then 1, 2 there. So that's 3, and then it looks like 4 up there on the firewall there between that this hose here and that electrical plug there and there. That's 4, and then right underneath that one, if I can see it, there's another one in there that I saw down there someplace, but there's 1 underneath that, I believe. It's right underneath that. You can kind of see it down in there between the, it's kind of down in there. So that would be 5. So I'm going to double check that there's 5, or at least supposed to be 5, and then we're going to come back and get after that. And then again, we've got to break these 2 hoses loose here, but we already undid the clamps here. So anyways, alright, I shall return. Alright, well, we're back, and I'm going to go ahead and break these heater core lines loose off of here. Move the camera here. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm back, and I'm going to remove those heater hose lines here. Let me zoom in there. Got 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom. Remember, we've already loosened the clamps. And since I don't have any heater hose clamps, and I really don't feel like grabbing a bunch of pliers and plugs and trying to cobble some stuff up, and since there's not really going to be a lot of pressure, we're just going to use a couple of Ziploc bags and some more of our favorite kind of tape here. Now I haven't tried to take these off yet, so I'm putting my gloves on, and I'm not sure how tight they're going to be on here. So okay, not too tight. And you can put a drip pan underneath here, under your vehicle. You're not going to get a lot out of here probably. And also, you know, you may have just straight water, some rusty water or something. If you've had a heater core problem, you might not even have regular coolant in there, in which case if it's just water in there, don't really have to worry about it. So we're going to take 1 of these bags here. You could use a smaller bag, but I don't have any smaller bags. Oh my god, that man is okay. All right. Pull this off here. Yeah, just a little bit coming out of there, not much at all. And we're just going to take this hose here and kind of wrap it around this thing here. Now, you may need new heater hoses, you know, or you may need to trim the ends off your hose a little bit. I don't know exactly what state your hoses may be in. These are still in pretty good shape, so just going to save these for now. This is how we're going to do this. So, it works good enough. And then we're just going to take this hose and just kind of put it over here out of the way. And then we're just going to do the same thing to this bottom one here. Just give it a twist. Again, you may need to get one of those picks that goes over and down and back and kind of stick one of those in there. You may need to slice it a little bit right here. You can do that too. Just cut a slice a little bit here, maybe just like a 1/2 inch, you know, and to get it off of there. Or you may have to trim a 1/2 inch on. You can, these are long enough, you can still trim 1 inch or so off of the ends and reuse them again if you need to. So, and the bottom one's smaller than the top one. I'm sure it probably says on the hose what it is. I think the top hose said it was an 11/16. So, again, we're just going to try and Alright, like I said, there's really not much that was going to come out of these hoses anyway, so. Alright. Now again, we got just a little bit that dribbled out right there. So you can decide whether or not you want to take a garden hose on there and just kind of flush that out. What you can do, if you really want to try and get her clean before you take it out of there, take your garden hose and flush that out, and then when you're done doing that, take some compressed air and an air hose and then blow the rest of the air and the water out of there. And like I said, you may get a couple dribbles inside if your heater core is leaking or really blown out, but again, you know, if it's still got coolant and some stuff in there and you just kind of want to flush it out as much as you can, that's what you would do, is just stick the garden hose up there. Since I've been sitting here talking about it, I guess I'm going to have to do it, right? Alright, we're back, and kind of going to do a recap here. Again, what we did was we took and we knocked Donatello off onto the ground, but he'll be alright. We took this bottom hose off here and we wrapped it with a Ziploc bag and some tape, and there really wasn't much coming out of these things anyway. We did the same thing with the upper one here, so pulled both of these off, and remember we'd already loosened these clamps that were on there, so this is just a paper towel that's on this air conditioning line right here, just to catch any little dribbles that might come out of it. Oh, we're good. So anyways, what I was doing was I was showing, you can bend this out of the way, we're putting a new line on anyways. I was showing how if you've got a leaking heater core, you know, you got that antifreeze dripping on the inside and it's going to be a while before you can get it fixed, what you can do is you can pull these two lines off here. You can get a kit. It's a union that you can put inside this small hose and clamp it on, and then put it in the other end inside this hose and clamp this hose on, and that creates the loop here. It bypasses your heater core. So then you got your heater core sitting here, but it's like, okay, but it's still got some radiator fluid or antifreeze or whatever in there. So what you want to do is, after you've got your two hoses off, And again, if you're taking the heater core out and you want to spill a little less fluid inside, you could do this. Or again, maybe you got a leak in heater core and it's going to be months or a while before you can get it fixed. Still need to drive the car, and you don't want to deal with that smell, or that fogging up in the window or the dripping on the inside. Again, this is what you do. You remove both of your hoses and plug them up somehow, or put some bags on them and tape them up, or get some special clamps to clamp them off. Put something in the ends to plug them up, whatever. Got your 2 heater core ports right there. Doesn't matter whether you put your hose in the upper or the lower, but you just get your garden hose, bring it up here like that, you just crack it a little bit, and there comes the water out. Now it might be green, it might be red, it might be orange, it might be rusty brown, whatever, but you just run it until it starts coming clean like that. Now your heater core is just full of water, so at least whatever drips or leaks inside will just be water. But if you want to get all that out of there and you don't want to have any water or anything dripping in there, like maybe your heater core is really blown out or it's really got a leak in there, in which case some of that clear water may be coming out of the drain hole or the drain port for your heater core. So if your whole heater box has got garbage in there, you may want to run that hose a little bit longer through there until all the water that's, like I said, if your heater core has a hole in it, you may want to run that longer until all the water that's coming out of the drain, because there's a drain for the heater box. When it starts leaking, most of it's supposed to come out of there. Usually some of it still kind of drips inside. So anyways, if you want to get all this extra water out of here, then what you would do is just take an air hose, and you're going to have some water shooting out of here, so just take your air hose and put it up here. This one doesn't have the rubber tip on there. It helps to kind of have something around the hose here, to kind of help plug it up, but you'll see the water coming out from here. All right. So that's how you blow most of the water out of there. So now you've got your heater core bypassed. You got your heater core bypassed, you got your hoses, your heater core's bypassed up here, you got it flushed out, and then you got it blown out. So you're not going to have any more leaking or stinking or any of that kind of problems on the inside of your car. And like I said, if it leaked really bad or blew out and you got a lot of water and dirty shit, in your heater core box, there's a heater core drain tube down there that's supposed to come out of. So you could just keep running through water through that core, until it started kind of running clean out of the drain in the box too. Shake the camera up a little bit here and show you where that drain is. That drain is right. It's that tube coming out of the firewall, right? Oh. Sorry about that. The drain tube is this tube right here, coming out of the, it's the one coming out of the firewall right there. So, when your heater core or your AC core or something goes bad, it's supposed to come out of that tube. And it usually does, but because the inside and the box on the inside usually isn't perfectly sealed, it'll start dripping in there too. So, especially if the box starts filling up. Those lines down there get clogged. That's another reason you want to make sure that line too isn't clogged, because if it's clogged and your heater core starts leaking, you also need to have that line free, because that's where your evaporator core when you're air conditioning, when you pull up on, in your driveway and you turn your air conditioner off, you turn your car off, and all that water leaking out from, underneath, leaking onto your car from the evaporator from the air conditioner, that's where that water's coming out of, is that tube right there. So you want to make sure that's clean and clear, always too. So just an FYI there for you. A rambling FYI. I think I got all the information in there one way or another that I needed to. So anyways, that's how you flush out your heater core while it's still on the vehicle. For whatever reason you might need to do that. And with that, the next thing we're going to do is go on to removing those nuts off of those studs and see how much wiggle room we got on that heater box on the inside. So stick with me. Alright, so back at the scene of the crime here, and so far what I did was we decided that there was basically 5 nuts to loosen. One here, one down there, one there, and then one over there. I got all of them loose a little bit. This one down here was already loose. I just moved it by thumb. And I'm getting a little bit of movement on the inside there. So I haven't taken any of the nuts all the way off because, again, I want to be able to show you where they're all at. So I'm going to bring this around here. Pardon the camera shake here. I'm going to bring this around here to the inside here and show you what we've done in here so far. Now down here, and again, I meant to turn the camera on for some of this, but sometimes you forget, and the next thing you know, it's off. So what are you going to do? This little wiring harness here, it's got one screw in it right here, and then another one in it back here. So right back here and right there. And I just took the screws out, dropped the harness down, and then put the little screws back in there. And that's all I've done since the last time I showed that I was in here. Now this thing is starting to move now, so it does feel like there's something in here or something that's kind of holding it a little bit. Oh, it's this bolt right here is what it is. Okay, so there's a bolt right here. It seems to be holding to this metal here, and I have a feeling when I remove that, the rest of this is going to loosen up quite a bit. So once again, I just removed this, let this harness drop here. There's one screw right here and then another one back under here, and I just took the screws out, these little wiring loom clips, and then put the screws back in. Sometimes that's a good thing to do too if you're worried about losing the screws, is if you're just going to take something apart and put them back in. And again, the bolt that we need to undo is right here, because that screws it onto this metal thing here. It seems to be kind of loose on the ends here, but not right in the middle here. So I have a feeling that once I loosen that, then it'll probably start to come forward. So we shall see. Stick with me. Okay, and to get to this little bolt right here, it's gonna need an extension. I believe it's a 7/16. And all those nuts under the hood, by the way, those 5 nuts there, those were 11 millimeter. Just FYI. Oh, these things are really on there. I kind of got to get in front of the camera a little bit here. Jeez, just... Oh. I don't know why that's being such a pain in the butt. Oh, come on. Okay, maybe this is the wrong size. Again, I'm having kind of one of these moments where I'm just really not real patient right now because I've got so much other stuff. I mean, I just got a lot of stuff going on. Let me see if I can find. I can't even talk. I got to take a break and regroup here. I'll be back. All right. I'm back. I went and changed my pad. I'm all better now. Okay. That was just, I don't know why, if this socket's just a little bit worn, or it's hard to see it, but it's right here. So you got to have an extension up in here, and it's got one of those clips on here, and it was just really tight and just fidgety, and I'm just not in that mood right now. So I'll take it the rest of the way out here on camera here. Jeez, yeah, that one's going to hold on to the bitter end there. So I'm guessing that means this thing should have a lot more, a lot more flexibility in it here. So, okay, I'm guessing this harness here just stays on here. I think that whole thing stays on there, so guess we'll find out. So I'm going to bring the camera back around the underside of the hood here, and we'll undo those nuts under there. So I shall return. Just to recap, once again, this screw here goes up in this little valley right here and goes into here, into this clip here, and that's what was kind of keeping this thing. So I think we're just loosening taking the nuts off on the other side, and that should be good. So just kind of recapping that there. I already got that, but we'll be under the hood next, so stick with me. All right, just gonna get up here and take all these nuts off by hand, because that's one here. Okay, and I'm just gonna set this on the fender over here. Then there's this other one down below it here. Like I said, this one was just on finger tight, and it just fell off and went on the ground. So let me grab that real quick. Okay. All right, that was nut number 2. And then number 3. Pardon me getting in front of the camera here. You put zip ties on stuff. The only thing I hate about them is when you clip off the end of the zip tie, the back side of it scratches your hand or your arm when you're in there trying to work on something. All right. This bracket is being held on by 2 of those nuts too, and this is the bracket that this thing goes on here that holds that canister for the air conditioner. So we'll just take and set this right here. It's part of that, and that means we should only have one more nut to undo, which is this one over here. All right. Once again, make sure this is in frame here. All right. Just trying to be thorough. Okay, once again, we had one right there, one right down there, one there, one underneath that there, and then one over there in that corner there. their wiring harness underneath all those things is kind of on top of that one over there, so you might not see it. So there's our 5. Okay. All right, let me stop this and we're going to go back around to the inside. All right. Back to the inside and we're going to see what we got here. Pretty loose, almost like there's one more nut on the other side, or maybe there's something under here I'm missing, so I'm gonna go check that out and figure it out. Stick with me. Okay, so I had a little issue with my hose block off. This one heater hose, I set it down a little bit and then it started siphoning because the hose was lower than the radiator, so my little bag started filling up with antifreeze and then it started leaking all over, so that I took care of it. There's 5 nuts holding it on there, but that one on the bottom, there's this vent right here that's supposed to take all the water from the cowl and drain it down there, which those don't work that great either, but anyway, there's this vent here. It goes over that stud and there's a nut that goes over it, and then that comes off and there's another nut behind it, so that stud down there, the one that's the hardest to get to, is double nutted. There's one up against the firewall, then there's that plastic vent, then there's another nut. Once I get that other nut off of there, then that should come out of there okay. So again, it was 11 millimeter. I might need an open end wrench to get in there because that's so hard to get to, and then that little plastic bent thing's in the way, so. This is really not a fun area to work in on this vehicle right here, I tell you. Okay, here's the crappy vent. It just pulled out of there. Oh my God. So that's that there. All right. Ouch. Once again, I'm going to have... All right, I'm going to have to shut the camera off here for a minute because I'm going to start swearing so I can get to this. Okay, I did manage to get it loosened just a little bit with this crescent wrench here. And it seems to be just on their finger tight, but man, if you got a whole ton of rust on your firewall with these nuts and stuff, man, that's not a good situation there. So hopefully you don't have a whole bunch of rust on your nuts because you don't want it. Okay. All right. Put this back over here. Excuse me for lifting the camera up again. All right. Let's see what we got going now. I also, while no one was looking, took this plastic cover off, cowl off, vent, defrost vent thing off of here. It was just sitting on here. Well, how was it sitting on here? There's a, oh yeah. Okay, there's a nut I didn't take that one off. There was only one holding it on there, so somebody forgot to put that one on there, but it's on there like that. There's one nut there, and one nut here, but that's missing the nut, so that nut didn't get put back on there when whoever took it off earlier, so, or the last time, I mean. Okay, so just to recap, we ripped all the inside apart and half the crap on the firewall apart. Is that enough of a recap there? Okay. So let's see what we got coming out here. What's going to happen here? I'm a little concerned about this wire here, but whatever. Okay. What have we got going on here? Okay. One other thing under the firewall that does not get enough deserved attention about disconnecting. I'm just going to take the camera off here. There's a vacuum line right here. And it plugs into that right there. Real easy to overlook for some strange reason. But you got to unplug this. And if you break it, well, then you'll just have to fix it. So add that to the list of things under the firewall. 2 air conditioning lines, 2 heater core hose lines, 5 nuts with one of them on the back side double nutted for that vent that's up against the firewall there, the vacuum line, and then the vent tube drain, which is this thing here that's on the other side of the firewall for this box to drain when it gets condensation from the air conditioner or if the heater core starts leaking. So all those things, it's like 7 things I think, I don't know, can't count right now. All right, let me make sure we're still rolling here. All right. That is kind of why it helps to blow out your water out of your heater core so you get less dribble inside the car here. It's free, there's just stuff hanging up everywhere. Anybody that says this is an easy job, it's either all they do all day long or they have some very serious issues with BSing people. All right, there we go. Okay, so there we go. We got a bare inside the whatever. There's no more heater core box in there. Bare firewall on the inside there. And see, that's all nice and clean. A lot of them probably don't look like that. So, and then here, that's the beast right there. That's the box. See, we still got to get into that. I mean, it's not like we just pulled the dash back and we've got the heater core and the AC core in there now. No, now we got to take the box apart. So, like I said, this is a bit of a job. This is a bit of a process. The heater cores are never fun. These are, you know, they're a pain in the ass. I'm sorry. I'm not saying they're impossible. I'm not saying guys that know what they're doing can't knock them out and do a good job. But it's, you know, definitely one of your, it's probably one of the more pain in the butt things you can do to a vehicle. That's for sure. So with that, I'm going to clean up this stuff a little bit here and organize my stuff a little bit again, and then we'll get to taking this box apart so we can get to the heater core and the evaporator core. So like I said, this you can see what stayed on the box. Our vacuum line harness there stayed on the box. All that was heater wiring there, that harness that I undid. Actually, I guess I wouldn't have needed to undo that harness from underneath there. They screwed up to underneath the bottom of the box there, but I wouldn't have needed to taken that off. I could have left it on there. So, and then in there we still got the fuse box hanging and all that. So just to kind of give you an idea what came with it. So, have a look underneath the hood here, and again, that's a big square part there. That part there that comes through the firewall, with that seal there and stuff on there. Kind of show you where it came through there. So there we go. All right, stick with me.